Parkwood, which is just up the road. Came in with her husband on Wednesday afternoon. They've been shopping.
This last week?
Yes. And as they drove in, they realised, she said to him, "Didn't you close the gate?" And he said, "Thought so." Anyway, they went in, got out of the car, and he was bringing shopping out of the boot. And she went in, and as she opened the front door, there was a black chap. He put his hands up and said, "Don't panic, everything's in order, everything's in order." She said, "What are you doing in my house?" "No, don't panic." And she went to turn out to see where her husband was, couldn't see him, and she thought, "Oh, well, he was doing something." They tied her up, threw her down to the ground, tied her hands and her feet, put a knife at her throat.
And it's right here in this?
Yeah, and just up the road here, I can take you.
In Parkwood?
Parkwood, yeah, just up the road. And they took all her jewellery, demanded money, took cell phones, took everything. And in the meantime, she didn't know where her husband was. They'd gagged him, stuffed an oil rag in his mouth, thrown him in the boot of a car, and thrown a sheepskin over. And the poor man he was going to go unconscious. Anyway, she said there was nothing she could do. Her hands were tied, and off they went.
They took the car?
No, they didn't take the car.
What a luck. Wow.
Yeah. But she said, everything else, the cell phones, she said didn't even leave the SIM card for them. Her camera with all her children's, grandchildren's pictures, didn't, leave
the disc in, nothing.
Nothing. She said those things were more important to her than the jewelry one. And she says it was just a miracle that they weren't harmed.
Wow. I had a patient 2 weeks ago in Alberton where they came, a young guy in his 20s, a young black guy, took a gun and started swearing at the woman by backing, and her brother was there and he said, "I'm going to," and all these swear words, "kill you today." Shot the gun misfired. She ran, she tripped over her shoe, he shot again, and the bullet just went over her head, and they beat up her brother, and they stole the backing. And they say it's the same gang that the day before in Benmore or something, there was a jewellery where they killed one of the people.
It happens on a daily basis, and as you say, you just hope your daughter will be safe. I hope so too.
See, in Israel, kids walk around till 3 in the morning.
I know.
You don't lock the doors. It's very different.
I know. It's a very different life. Actually,
when you were in Israel, did you feel it was different?
Completely. Wherever we went, we felt it was. I went all over. We went to Europe as well, and I mean, I love this country. I was born here, I've lived here all my life. I'm 74 years old, but really and truly, but I can tell you a story that happened. Well, my parents have been dead now. They died 3 months apart, but they've been dead for 12 years. Wow. And when they were still alive, they were living in what's the suburb? Right opposite the Rosebank Union Church, which is in Santon.
Okay.
In the very nice village they lived in, a retirement village. And they'd been to a meeting up at the church one evening, and the home had a combi. And as they pulled into the home to let all the residents out, to go back to their cottages, they were hijacked.
My God, really?
And not everybody got out of the combi.
No.
My mum and my dad and my aunt and I think 3 other people were left in it and couldn't get out. I mean, my dad was an old man in his 80s. And they flew out onto the Nickel Highway, onto the highway heading
with
towards
your dad
Joburg.
inside?
There was all these people in school.
Oh
my dad was the only man, there were only ladies, and he was always very much a perfect gentleman. And Mum said she had to just about sit on him and say, just keep still and do what they tell you to do. And my aunt, bless her, they took all her jewellery off. And she proceeded to tell them what would happen to them when they died, because God was watching them.
Oh my God.
And they eventually rode all around, pulled into a suburb in Germiston at about 11 o'clock that night. And they threw them out. And as they literally threw them out, and my aunt, as she was the last one out, and this guy that she'd given a mouthful threw all her jewellery back. She said she must have really hit a nerve. So they weren't harmed.
Thank God
but
they
a
weren't harmed.
dreadful experience. I've still got the newspaper cuttings in there. Wow. And that was about 13, 14 years ago. So it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, no, thanks for letting me know
Yeah.
the story. But I
Yes,
can't believe it. It's a week ago that
Yeah,
this happened.
yeah.
But this story wasn't in the paper.
This one, no, I haven't seen it in
See
the
that?
paper.
People don't read, and it's not even on the news, nothing.
No, I haven't, no.
If there's something like this happens in Israel, it's like front page
I'm sure,
headlines.
I'm
it's,
sure. I'm
There was
sure.
one rapist that escaped. You don't have too many rapists there.
No, I'm sure
The
not.
whole country went into panic
I bet.
because it's like so unusual.
Yeah.
But here it's like every day.
It
It's,
is, it really is.
wow, thank you so much.
It's okay, doctor.
How you feeling?
I'm fine.
After the operation
Just a bit
today, you
numb.
feeling good?
I'm fine, absolutely fine. It's
Wonderful.
brilliant, it really is.
An implant we did, I think last year I did.
Yes.
I helped on the one
Yes,
on that
this
side.
one, yes.
And
And
it's
it
really
was
good.
this one that fell out, and
But
I think
it's
it's
from
probably
the
because...
infection.
Yeah, I said to him, that tooth was a little bit troublesome when I was brushing it. It didn't give me pain.
It's from the infection.
And I said to him, did you think that might have
I'm sure
dropped
it is,
out?
I'm
And he
sure
said
it
he
is.
said, he thought so.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Oh, not at all, doctor. Thank you very much.
Here we are at airport, getting ready to check in. Sips. Hey, my darling. Lucy. We're all ready.
Merry Christmas.
to check. Welcome to Africa of the world. But you didn't say empty the airport, hey? Lucy? Here we are, getting ready to go.